wonderful to be back in Edmonton. The last time I was in this room, there was a crazy party for the Grey Cup, so I'm hoping that we can live up to that tonight. Also, became a Startup Edmonton a member last year, so it's really great to be here. Tonight I want to talk about how important it is for technology to be involved in cutting red tape. My name is Ben Sanders and I'm the co-founder of a company called Proof, and we're solving what we believe is one of the most central problems in government. The biggest sources of red tape were streamlining approvals. The origin of that phrase, red tape, dates back to the 16th century when the Spanish government used red string to bind the most important pieces of legislation to move that paper and legislation quickly through government. But before long, the paper piled up. Something that was supposed to be fast is now synonymous with everything that's slow in government. This is a report card that comes out annually. This is part of the reason that here in Alberta, as you know, there's a big new movement to cut red tape by up to a third. I've been trying to cut red tape in government for my whole adult life. In high school, I job shadowed my mayor and premier growing up in Manitoba. I worked as a page in the House of Commons, and I even ran in the last federal election. But I've not just been doing government, I've also been involved in tech. I worked on some big projects like the BlackBerry, like the Particle Physics Accelerator in CERN, Switzerland, and also in helping NASA get the shuttle back in space. And along the way, I also spent 4 years in Silicon Valley, where I helped build 2 tech startups. The first was cutting red tape in the restaurant space. We did this by reinventing paper-based menus with a digital tablet that you could order and pay on, and they're in every Applebee's in the United States now. The second startup's a company called ClearBank. One of my co-founders is a judge on the Dragon's Den show, and this was the team early on when I brought them up to my home in the Yukon. That company is cutting out the red tape in the financial sector by making it easier for businesses to get access to capital. This is what I'm doing with my third startup called Proof. We are solving this problem. In government, everything requires an approval. This is a routing slip that NASA used in 1986, and they still look like this today. So every time a decision is required, dozens of people have to sign off on something like this, and it's either stuck on paper or in some antiquated system that makes it really slow, and they always tend to get lost. With Proof, we are cutting out all of that red tape by streamlining the entire process. So now you can instantly track the status of every approval. This speeds everything up, and it's ultimately introducing transparency and accountability. It's saving tens of millions of dollars per year. Let me show you how it works. So this is our version of a digital routing slip or an approval. And there's lots on here, but I want to highlight a few key pieces. So we've got this routing step section. What this is as complicated as the workflow in our application gets. You simply identify the people who need to see it in a specific order and the action they have to perform. And as a byproduct of this, the only people who can access this approval are those whose names are on the list. We also have a timeline that records every single action that happens over the course of this approval, and it has Slack-like features built in so you can communicate with your colleagues in real time. It also supports attachments with version control built in, and you can even keep track on your colleagues to see if they've seen it or not yet. It all rolls up into a dashboard so you can instantly see which approvals you need to focus on next, where you're the bottleneck, and which ones are coming to you next week. We build in delegations, so when you go away on summer vacation, you can instantly hand over everything to your team. This ultimately unlocks really cool data that's starting to help identify ways to improve process in government. And we're working with governments across the country. We have offices in 4 different cities. We're working with governments at all levels, from Indigenous, municipal, provincial, and federal. And we've got this amazing team. This is part of the team. My parents are in the picture. They're here tonight. It's great to have them with us. I'm excited to say that we've got gender parity in the team. We've got former city councilors, people who've worked in tech and government. And together, we're building this one application because we think that approvals is the central thing from which everything else will be improved upon. And we're doing it in a subscription-based model. So typically, building great software is really expensive, and government typically goes out and spends a lot of money to buy it and build it custom, and then each government does the same thing over and over again, or they try and procure it from some software that doesn't build software for government, and it never really works. We're doing something different that's a lot like the Netflix models. We're offering the same platform to all of these governments, pooling all of their collective investment so that everyone gets the best software, it keeps getting better and better, and you only pay a fraction of the price. Thanks so much for your time today.